Assalamualaikum guys, good morning. So we continue with this lecture on persuasive oral presentation for food technology, IMA 116. So audience come to see a star. Are you the star? Okay, just to recap the difference between primal brain and the rational brain. In order for us to get into the rational brain, you need to first knock on the door. That is your primal brain. That's what this course is all about. Okay, we have done three primal stimuli. Now today we're going to go into the fourth, which is memorable stimulus. The bias is about to store less, and the goal is to remember limited information. Okay, and so but we're going to cover actually about memorable and also about emotional, because these two are related. Okay, question. Somebody come and whisper on your ears, to your ears, or somebody come and scream at you. Which one is more memorable? Are you going to remember more the whisper, or are you going to remember more the scream? Yeah, we all have been sometime in our life, some people come and scream at us. So which one is more memorable? Okay, all right, these guys undergoing some training in the military training camp or something. I'm sure you have seen in movies or in real life how tough the instructors are. Most of the time the instructors scream at the trainees. Why do they do that? Why do instructors scream and not whisper slowly? Okay, these two actors, which one you remember more? Okay, one of these actors should be influential to you. You remember their names. So which one do you remember more? I don't know, up to you. Depends on individuals. I would say Jim Carrey is more memorable because of the performance in many funny movies like Liar Liar, and what else? He was in The Mask. He's a very funny guy. So he has this funny characters. I think it's very much more memorable compared to De Niro. Equally good actually. Okay, about our presentation, Pop. This is how it looks like. When you do your presentation, you start off with something of very high attention. You start there, and eventually, as your audience get tired, they have all kind of issue, maybe they don't have enough sleep, etc. So they're starting to lose the interest, the attention and retention start to go down. Okay, and then because of the maybe they realize you're about to end the show, the presentation, and they get more awake, and the retention increase at the end. So main point is that it is not smart for us to talk things that are not relevant to the interests of the primal brain, especially in the beginning. You don't talk about your company too much. You don't dwell who you are, where you come from. They are not interested in that. Okay, so the advice is focus on that stimuli, especially the first stimulus that we talk about, which is the personal stimulus. That is try to think about the pain of the audience, and you can apply this stimulus in the beginning. Yeah. So today, basically what we want to talk about, if because of that Jim Carrey effect on us, one of the way to improve the retention of your audience is by telling stories. You cannot just go and talk using PowerPoint or just do your normal presentation. You must figure out some kind of story to tell. Okay, this is what story can do. It can increase or raise the retention of the presentation to your audience. You can imagine you start the story, you start the presentation from the start to the end, and because you use storyline, you apply story. That can be personal story, it can be other people's story, it can be brand story or product story, and inside the story there are lots of metaphors, analogies. There is proper design of flow and transition. Okay, so we raise the retention of our presentation because we do it like story, not like any presentation. So in order for us to come up with a good story, the structure of the presentation must be designed to match the structure of story. So because the primal brain again, it needs some kind of solid narrative structure with strong beginning and strong end in order to create attention and retention. So the role of story is very important. But I need to ask you a question now. Do you remember when was the first time you heard a story? How old were you? Who was that first person who actually told you a story? Can you recall? Was it your dad, your mom, maybe even your grandfather or your grandmom, who you don't know? So very likely we heard stories when we were very young. We couldn't really be rational about it, so our primal brain simply adapted to the structure of the story. So this structure of the story makes make our brain some kind of wired for stories. So story is something of familiar in nature, and you can recall our primal brain loves familiar way. Anything familiar, that is good for our primal brain. Okay, so back to the story of our couple here, and Steve and Maylene. Steve is telling story because Steve knows that story is friendly to the primal brain of Maylene. So because of this story, Maylene's brain is more active and make whatever Steve is trying to tell her more memorable, easy to remember. And also by telling stories, it helps to break down resistance, i.e. like opening the door by syncing Steve's mind to Maylene's mind. So they are now connected because of the story. So story is like something of a high concept. Yeah, we talk about concept, how important concept is to presentation. So story is very high in concept because it sharpens the understanding of one thing, which is probably your products or your problems or your audience issues, by showing it in the context of something else, like analogy. So story is like the analogy of your presentation. You use story to you borrow story to tell about your product presentation. Okay, it's like metaphors or analogy. So by applying a story, we actually convey complex idea, all the science, all the technologies, all the things that people do not understand, very complex ideas. We make it memorable and we make it meaningful. Yeah, so that's very important role of the stories. Right, so by definition, you can talk stories as a story is like a context, what we are trying to cover, enriched by emotion. We will talk about emotion as the next stimulus. Yeah. Okay, and always pack an emotional punch. So I give example here. The queen died and the king died. That is very boring. Yeah. So that is not a story. A story is like the queen died and the king died of broken heart. So the broken heart is what we say punch, emotional punch, which make the story about the king died as a memorable event on top of the queen died. Yeah. So we use a lot of emotion while doing the story. Things become more memorable that way. So a story is context enriched by emotion and always pack an emotional punch. Again, you see, you can use that statistic of overweight population in Southeast Asia. You can see Malaysia is red fat person there. Now you can also use these cartoons where the sharks come to see there are almost half of the swimmers are obese, so this shark report definitely he's very sure that he is in the Malaysian water. So you can use this statistic or the shark, or you can use both. You can start first with the shark picture and then you go to the statistic. Yeah, it can be done that way. So to understand story, it is always described as encapsulation of this information, context, knowledge, and emotion. So it makes the story complete. It can be done during introduction, maybe problem statement. You already have a story there. Maybe you want to introduce your product, which is the solution to the problem. Also, there's element of story there. Or it can be the whole presentation is information, context, knowledge, and also emotion. All right. So we will talk in detail in the class today. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.